But first, as this fatal shooting by a U.S. immigration agent stokes anger in Minnesota and beyond, the state and Trump administration are colliding over what happened and how to get answers. Today, Governor Tim Walz said the FBI has blocked Minnesota State Agency from participating in the investigation.
It feels now that Minnesota has been taken out of the investigation. It feels very, very difficult that we will get a fair outcome. And I say that only because people in positions of power have already passed judgment, from the president to the vice president to Kristi Noem, have stood and told you things that are verifiably false.
Zaynab Mohamed is Minnesota State Senator for the state's 63rd District in Minneapolis, which is near where this shooting took place. Senator, it's good to meet you. Thank you for being here on a difficult day.
Thank you so much for having me, David.
You were at the location of this fatal shooting yesterday, shortly after it happened. What did people there say to you? What did you see and hear?
Yeah, I got there just a few minutes after the tragic killing of Renee, and people on the ground were feeling a lot of grief. It was a pretty sad day. You could just feel it in the air. Our community is devastated, feeling another shooting that has taken in our city, but this time from a federal agent, and folks were mourning all day and all night, and same this morning as well.
Have things changed at all today? I know there have been some moments between protesters and federal agents, and despite what the mayor said yesterday, there's no sign that ICE is leaving. Where are things as of today?
Yeah, so this morning there was a protest in my district, actually, in a federal facility the ICE agents are staging out of at 7 a.m. this morning, and there were around 1,000 protesters. And I think what that's telling folks is that people are going to be on the ground until they see justice for the life of Renee and her family. But when I got there, ICE agents were pretty aggressive. They were outside. There was a lot of them. They were pepper spraying people. They were tear gassing people. And so they seem to also be escalating the situation as they are facing protesters who are often very, very peaceful.
Well, you say the protesters want justice for Renee and her family. This is Renee Nicole Good, the 37-year-old woman who was shot and killed by the ICE agent yesterday. Today, the Vice President, J.D. Vance, took to the White House briefing room and said that Renee Nicole Good, he effectively blamed her for her own death, saying she was dead because she tried to ram somebody with her car. What's your response to that from the Vice President?
My response is the public see the video and what happened to Renee. And we're not going to turn our eyes the other way. We know that Homeland Security and this federal government wants to spin the story and create a propaganda, and they want to instill fear in people. But people trust their eyes, and we see it. We also saw a physician who was on the ground, who was begging ICE agents to perform life-saving measures like CPR and check the woman's vitals, and they told that physician, who was a neighbor of hers, absolutely not. And I think if the vice president wants to get on national TV and tell people, the American people in the world, that what they're seeing is just not absolutely true, that they didn't see a woman who was trying to leave the situation peacefully, and an ICE agent shoot her in broad daylight and say, I'm not going to, at the very minimum, do a thorough and honest investigation, because this family deserves to know that. I think he is at best being dishonest. I think he's being dishonest with the American people, and I think American people are going to continue to reject this regime.
He also claimed in his press conference that Ms. Good was part of a broader left-wing network to attack ICE. What do you think the Vice President and the administration is trying to achieve with comments like this? Because Kristi Noem right away called this domestic terrorism, the president called it self-defense, and now these claims that Renee Nicole Good was part of some large organization that seemed to have been preparing for things like this.
Yeah, Renee is a community member, a neighbor who sees what ICE agents are doing to her immigrant neighbors. She did trainings to make sure that she can just do legal observations to ensure that people's constitutional rights were not being violated, because that's what ICE has been doing on the ground since they got here on December 1st. She's not a part of any radical group. There isn't some left-leaning radical group. The only radical group right now in this country is the this government that is invading the streets of American cities and that is literally killing people on broad daylight and trying to spin a story and say what you see isn't true. That is the only radicalism in this country that is happening. And I think people see it. And I think, I hope that the world is watching and they see this as a sign of to not allow this to happen in their countries, because what's happening in America right now is absolutely disgraceful.
Well, this phrase, legal observers, I mean, this is something we've heard a lot. It's not something we deal with here in Canada. You know what I mean? Because we do not have this sort of constant federal police operation happening in major cities. So help me understand exactly what that means for somebody like Renee Good. Is it simply showing up where there's ICE activity and filming it? Is it obstructing it in any way? What is the role of someone in a legal observer role as it's been described?
Yeah, it's often somebody who understands their rights as an individual. What are their rights as a United States citizen or as a documented person in this country? And then also when ICE agents do interact with a neighbor, they usually are there just to make sure things are safe. They are filming, they are making sure that that person who's being detained or that they are coming for, that their rights are not being violated. They're also ensuring that ICE agents have judicial warrants to carry out the immigration laws that they want to enforce, because unfortunately what's happening is majority of these ICE agents don't have judicial warrants to carry out what they're saying they're going to carry out. And so very often they're actually going up to American citizens, people who look like me, just because you're a hijabi or because you happen to look a certain way or because you have an accent, and they're just stopping them and asking them to prove the fact that they're a citizen. And so people are actually standing up and they're saying that is illegal. You can't go up to a random person and ask them to show you their passport and prove the fact that they're an American. You have to have a judicial warrant if you're going to remove somebody from their community and you're going to remove them from the country, and that's not happening. And so legal observers were created by community organizations when they saw what's happening across the country. The ICE agents are completely violating the constitutional rights of people. We have seen women who've been picked up by ICE agents who were sexually assaulted on their way to a facility. We have seen, the other day, just yesterday, as we're talking about Renee, somebody get killed on broad daylight. We have seen U.S. citizens tell them, I am a United States citizen, here's my passport, and they still detain them. And so the American people are standing up and they're enforcing the laws themselves, but in a way that's peaceful. They're asking them, hey, ICE agent, you want to show up to my community? No problem. Show me a judicial warrant of who you want to take out from our community. We want to see that the person that you're after is actually an undocumented person, and very often they don't have that.
You said people who look like you. You're a Somali American. Your family moved to America from Somalia when you were a young child. The president and his administration seem to have a singular focus on people of Somali descent in your country right now, perhaps why your city, your state is being targeted. He's talking about stripping away the citizenship of naturalized Americans from Somalia, and he said some difficult things about people of Somali descent. What are your thoughts on that, this acute focus and targeting of people of your ethnic background?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, what's really important for your audience to know is that Somali people in America are a very tiny population. Across the country, we're less than 200,000 people. In the state of Minnesota, there's about less than 80,000 of us. So this isn't a huge population. We're a fraction of the American population. And what the president and the entire federal government is doing is going after the tiniest, the smallest group of people. And for me, as an American, as a lawmaker who happens to be Somali, I see the contributions of my community across the country. And I see the fact that Minnesotans and Americans actually love Somali people. And I think this president, his rhetoric is being rejected by the vast majority of Americans. But I think it doesn't stop with us. That's what's really concerning. This isn't a fight against Somali people. This is a fight against immigrants. It's a fight against people of color. And if people don't stand together and don't reject this rhetoric, it is going to come to their doorstep next time.
Just one last question, Senator, before we let you go. The FBI and Department of Homeland Security, they've taken control of this investigation. Local law enforcement are being denied access to the case, with the federal authorities saying they have no jurisdiction and there will be no multi-jurisdictional cooperation. Given that, and given everything that the president has said, the vice president has said, Kristi Noem has said, I mean, how hopeful are you of a proper investigation being done here?
Myself, and I speak for our entire community, I think when I say this, we do not have faith in this federal government. Pam Bondi, Kristi Noem, Kash Patel will not do the right thing. They are appointed by this president and this administration, and they will not carry out an honest investigation. That is why we have been calling for local law enforcement to take a more serious role in co-prosecuting and co-investigating this case. Yesterday, the federal government said that they were going to allow for the Minnesota BCA to co-investigate. This morning, they came back and said that's not happening. It's in the hands of the federal government. While at the same time, the vice president is doing a press conference and telling the world that this woman was from a left-leaning group and was a radical and a terrorist, when he does not even have any of the evidence and has no reason to be saying that. And I think what you're saying is the fact that just from the leaders and what they're saying, the rhetoric that they're carrying out, that this isn't going to be an honest investigation. And I think we're demanding as Minnesotans for there to be an honest and a thorough investigation, because the family of this young woman at the very minimum deserve that.
Minnesota State Senator Zaynab Mohamed, it was good to meet you. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you, David. Good to meet you.